back at work and refusing to back down this Friday night. The amplifying calls for Justin Trudeau to resign.
The Prime Minister doesn't want to leave.
Siri accused of eavesdropping.
Here's the weather today.
The core of a proposed class action lawsuit against Apple. Jeers. The cancer's America's top doctor is connecting to alcohol and the warning labels he's calling for. Plus, prescribing an alternative.
Nature can benefit people's health.
The program making the great outdoors a remedy.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Nitu Garcha.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was back in Ottawa today after a holiday break, with his agenda now focused on Canada-U.S. relations. But he also returned to more calls for him to step down as dissent continues to grow within his own party. A vast number of Liberal MPs are now demanding his resignation, with many believing his political fate is all but inevitable. The Prime Minister, though, remains quiet. Touria Izri has tonight's top story.
The Prime Minister paid his respects to a late former U.S. president and later attended a committee meeting focused on the massive tariff threat from the incoming president. But Justin Trudeau's return to Ottawa only reignited calls for him to resign.
The only reason that our party is threatened with oblivion right now is because the Prime Minister doesn't want to leave.
A growing number of MPs want him to heed the calls to step down.
If I was to be asked for advice, my advice would be to prorogue, resign, basically assist the transition of leadership.
But the Prime Minister isn't revealing what he'll do, even as more rank-and-file members say it's obvious.
It would be it'd be responsible on the Prime Minister's part to say, maybe my time has come.
Trudeau did not speak publicly Friday and has largely stayed out of view since the stunning resignation of former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland.
For me, what's really interesting is the silence at this time is exactly the opposite of what you would expect if somebody was trying to hold on to the job.
And the holiday break handed him another blow, with longtime Toronto MP Marco Mendicino announcing he will not be seeking re-election, adding to the list of high-profile Liberals distancing themselves from Trudeau.
There is not an institutional way out of it, and I think that that's a broader problem, and it is an aspect of a cult personality party. Building a party around a person is dangerous.
Questions about the Prime Minister's future will likely only grow louder between now and January 27th, when MPs return from the winter break. If Trudeau continues to remain silent, it will be a long 3.5 weeks for the Prime Minister and a party in crisis. Nithu?
All right, Touria Izri in Montreal. Thanks, Touria. Apple is agreeing to pay nearly $100 million to settle a privacy lawsuit in the U.S. The lawsuit claims the tech giant secretly activated Siri to record conversations and share personal information with third parties. The settlement could impact millions of Apple users, and as Anne Gaviola reports, legal action in Canada could follow.
These things are eavesdropping on us from our smartphones, our smart watches, our smart speakers, our smart screens.
The accusations leveled against Apple are serious. Its devices, listening, and sharing our most personal information with third parties.
Hey Siri.
Even if you've never used Siri.
Some conversations were allegedly shared with advertisers. The suit alleges Apple secretly activated Siri to record conversations through the iPhone and other devices for more than a decade.
Apple agreed to pay $95 million to settle the American lawsuit out of court, a tiny amount for a tech giant whose value on the stock market exceeds $3.6 trillion. A company whose marketing calls privacy a fundamental human right and one of its core principles.
We have integrated it deep into your iPhone, iPad, and Mac, and throughout your apps, so it's aware of your personal data without collecting your personal data.
This potential slap on the wrist comes as Apple and every major tech firm rolls out their most transformative updates.
They are all in the process of undergoing what is essentially an AI brain transplant. Siri, Google Assistant, Alexa are all getting new powers.
If the settlement is approved, tens of millions of U.S. consumers who owned iPhones and Apple devices as early as mid-September 2014 could get up to $20 per device, and legal action in Canada could follow suit.
I feel like the impact is probably greater than the payout.
And if they're stealing my information, I need more money.
Concerned Apple users can disable Siri on their device. Just go to Settings and select Siri or Apple Intelligence in Siri if you have the new setup. Tap Talk to Siri and turn the feature off. Neetu?
All right, Anne Gaviola in Toronto. Thanks, Anne. After weeks of political chaos, South Korea has plunged deeper into turmoil. Police tried but failed to arrest impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol, part of an insurrection probe into his bid to impose martial law a month ago. He defied orders to be detained and instead sparked a long standoff between presidential guards and investigators. As Redmond Shannon reports, Yoon's strongest supporters are comparing his struggles to those of incoming U.S. President Donald Trump.
A struggle at the gates of South Korea's presidential compound. Police on a mission to arrest impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol. But hours later, the swarms of officers leave empty-handed after scuffles and a standoff with a team of presidential guards. A remarkable clash between two arms of the country's security forces. Police investigating Yoon on allegations of insurrection say they were outnumbered. Yoon was impeached and stripped of his powers 3 weeks ago after briefly imposing martial law in early December. On Thursday, Yoon issued a defiant statement promising to fight until the end. Some of his strongest supporters tried to prevent the police raid, borrowing the language of another impeached president, Donald Trump.
Can you see?
They liken Yoon's plight to the now US president-elect. This man says South Korea's last parliamentary election, which Yoon's party lost, was rigged.
This won't be resolved until the Constitutional Court makes a decision.
This analyst says Yoon might be trying to drag out the process beyond April. That's when two of the judges considering whether Yoon should be thrown out of office permanently will have to retire.
What this current crisis shows is that there are potential weaknesses in South Korea's current democratic structure, one of which is the nature of both impeachment and the presidency and the successor in the case of impeachment.
Polls suggest almost 3/4 of South Koreans support Yoon's impeachment. Police say they will now call on the acting president, Chue, to intervene. The arrest warrant expires Monday. Redmond Shannon, Global News, London.
Just weeks before his inauguration, a judge has ordered Donald Trump to appear in court next week for sentencing over his hush money conviction last year. The judge presiding over the case upheld the conviction, but he indicated he won't have Trump jailed, writing he will likely deliver an unconditional discharge due to the incoming presidency. Trump was convicted on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in an alleged scheme to silence adult film actor Stormy Daniels from publicizing claims of an affair before his 2016 campaign. Trump was handed a victory in Washington today as a new era got underway with the Republicans taking control of both the House and the Senate. It began with the dramatic decision to keep Mike Johnson in the powerful role of Speaker of the House of Representatives. Johnson survived a razor-thin vote, and the stakes are high with the president-elect set to return to the White House later this month. Lawmakers are promising to deliver big on a long list of priorities, but as Bianca Fascini reports, the slim majority could make it difficult.
House Speaker Mike Johnson narrowly clinching victory on Capitol Hill Friday.
Working together, we have the potential to be one of the most consequential Congresses in the history of this great nation.
Johnson winning re-election to the top post in the U.S. House of Representatives after a second vote was forced, following a lack of support from his own party. His first order of business, honoring the victims of the New Orleans terror attack.
I'd ask you all to join me in a moment of silence for the victims of this horrific act.
Republicans hold a very slim majority in the House, which means Speaker Johnson couldn't afford to lose more than one GOP vote if he wanted to hold on to his leadership role. And it was clear from the start that he had at least one detractor.
You can pull all my fingernails out. You can shove bamboo up in them. You can start cutting off my fingers. I am not voting for Mike Johnson tomorrow. And you can take that to the bank.
Some members of his party were on the fence over Johnson's failure to cut government spending and his position on Ukraine. But President-elect Donald Trump saw him as a key ally in helping him push forward his positions on renewing tax cuts, immigration, and border security.
This Congress will renounce the status quo, and we will listen to the voices of the people. We will act quickly, and we will start by defending our nation's borders. That's the number one priority.
With this win, Republicans now avoid a delay to the certification of Donald Trump's election on Monday and pave the way for the president-elect to move quickly on his ambitious legislative agenda when sworn in. Bianca Fascini, Global News, Washington.
A powerful winter storm is taking aim at more than a dozen American states tonight, from the Great Plains to the East Coast and right here in Canada. A snow squall warning is in effect for southern Ontario, where people woke up to more than 80 centimeters of snow today. 60 centimeters more could fall by tomorrow evening. Wind chills as low as -40 are also in the forecast for Ontario and parts of the prairies. America's top doctor sounds the alarm. Coming up, why he wants warning labels on booze. If you're planning on cutting back on drinking alcohol, now could be the time. A new report from the U.S. Surgeon General reveals consuming alcohol increases the risk of developing at least 7 types of cancer. Each year, about 20,000 people die in the U.S. from alcohol-related cancer. Kyle Benning looks at the data and what the U.S. Surgeon General is urging.
It's a call from America's top doctor not to stick around until last call. U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy releasing a report on the exposure of alcohol to your health. The report reads that there should be changes to the existing label on alcohol-containing beverages to include a warning about the risks of 7 different types of cancers associated with consumption. That suggestion getting mixed reviews.
If people want to drink, they will drink regardless of any warnings.
It's just like cigarettes, right? You have the labels and the warning labels there, so there must have been some research that indicates that there might be some sort of risk.
Part of the concern is public awareness. The report shows fewer than half of Americans know that alcohol can increase cancer risk. Murthy noting alcohol is the 3rd leading preventable cause for cancer, behind smoking and obesity, with it linked to 100,000 diagnoses and 20,000 cancer deaths. This report comes 2 years after the Canadian Centre on Substance Use and Addiction released its alcohol consumption guidelines, showing in order to limit health risks, a person should consume fewer than 3 drinks per week. It also called for health warnings to be put on containers, something currently not in effect in Canada.
Not only that, it's being sold with the intention of it being ingested with absolutely no warning labels. So this is something that I think actually is probably illegal if it was any other substance except alcohol.
But a 2017 research project adding warning labels in a Yukon liquor store showed promising results.
The consumers in Whitehorse that were exposed to the warning labels had higher odds of knowing that alcohol causes cancer, being aware of the low-risk drinking guidelines, and also reporting drinking less.
While Canadian products don't have a warning and the U.S. looks to update its notice, Ireland has passed a law mandating all alcoholic beverages to contain health warnings starting in May 2026. Kyle Benning, Global News, Toronto.
And there's a warning tonight about certain sea and rock salt sold across Canada. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency has announced a recall for President's Choice brand Mediterranean sea and Himalayan pink rock salt due to potential contamination with plastic pieces. Consumers are being told not to use, sell, serve, or distribute the products. It's unclear if anyone has been injured or become ill as a result of the contamination.
Counselor, you don't have the floor. You don't have the floor.
Ahead on Ontario Mayor's drastic move to ease escalating tension around a city councillor. An unprecedented series of events is unfolding in Pickering city politics east of Toronto. Increasingly hostile threats have led the mayor to move in-person council meetings online, amidst a growing battle with one councillor accused of links to alt-right figures who have disrupted meetings. As Lexi Benedict reports, the months-long conflict has garnered reaction far beyond the municipality's city limits.
The mayor of Pickering announced council meetings will now be virtual after ongoing threats he says are directed at council and staff.
Over the past 2 years, the city of Pickering has witnessed a growing infiltration of alt-right individuals, ideologies, and influences that have created an atmosphere of uncertainty, fear, and intimidation.
Pickering Mayor Kevin Ash released a 13-minute long video on the city's YouTube page announcing the move. He says he is disappointed that it has come to this, but believes it needs to be done for safety and security.
To keep our city staff, who are arm's length independent civil servants, our council members, and also our residents safe, we decided to make this very difficult decision.
The video details the ongoing battle with Councillor Lisa Robinson, who the mayor says is linked to alt-right figures who have repeatedly disrupted meetings.
Counselor, you don't have the floor.
The video mentions Robinson's appearance on a controversial podcast where the host calls her council colleagues pedophiles and Nazis and suggests a violent dog be let loose on them. It also highlights threats of violence allegedly made against council over social media, email, and voicemails.
We're going to start digging into your family. We're going to start digging into your husband, digging into your kids.
Over the past year, 3 separate investigations by the city's integrity commissioner have found that Robinson broke the council's code of conduct. As a result, she's been docked 9 months' pay. Robinson has denied any wrongdoing and alleges there's a conspiracy against her. She responded to the mayor's video through social media.
It's honestly laughable to any reasonable person who might watch it.
In a statement to Global News, Robinson says Mayor Ash and council have a troubling pattern of labeling anyone who disagrees with them as alt-right, and she doesn't dictate anyone's opinions or actions. But sitting councillor Maurice Brenner says safety has never been an issue in his 20 years on council.
You don't want to have a public that are afraid to come into a council chamber because they're afraid that they're going to be accosted or they're going to be threatened, or they're going to be followed.
The virtual meeting will start this month and continue for the foreseeable future. Lexi Benedict, Global News, Toronto.
In the waters between BC and Washington state, a killer whale who made headlines in 2018 carrying her dead calf for 17 days in what appeared to be grief has lost another calf. The orca, known as Tahlequah, has been seen pushing her newborn calf's body since New Year's Day. Observing researchers say the calf was born before Christmas, but only survived for a few days. The cause of death will be difficult to determine, with Tahlequah too attached to the body to retrieve it.
I don't like, personally, using the words mourning or grief. She is experiencing something, and it's that loss of that social partner, that relationship, that she's like the one thing we can observably see that I keep saying is she's not ready to let go.
Tahlequah has now lost 2 of 4 calves. Researchers say it's also grim news for the region's struggling orca population, which has dwindled to 73 whales. Next, prescribing nature, why some doctors are pushing patients to heal without the pharmacy's help. Many of us spend too much time indoors, glued to screens, especially in the city, but a daily dose of nature can be the perfect remedy. And now there's growing scientific evidence to back that up. That's why an Ontario hospital network is prescribing nature as part of its treatment plan. And this trend is starting to catch on across the country. Karen Lieberman explains.
Musician and poet Tom Gannon Hamilton loves to perform and has been a staple at various music festivals for years, until an incident last year put a pause on his music career.
I was struck by a car. I was taken completely by surprise. I had a broken distal radius and 4 pelvic fractures.
Tom spent a month in hospital, followed by more than a week in rehab.
They seemed to be impressed with my progress, and I was offered a Parks Canada Discovery Pass, which I had no idea existed. I was asked, do you like the outdoors? Do you spend a lot? I said, wow, do I? You're talking to the right guy.
PARX is a national nature prescription program that originated in British Columbia.
And we found that there was a really compelling scientific argument for the way that nature can benefit people's health.
Now, nearly 15,000 healthcare providers across the country are part of the program, with 1 million prescriptions for nature issued. And Halton Healthcare just became the first hospital system to sign on.
You can prescribe activities based on the patient's interest of activities outdoors. So like it could be walking in parks, it could be spending more time in green spaces, it could be hiking, gardening, anything.
This allows patients free access to Canada's national parks.
There's a lot of research actually suggesting that spending time outdoors in nature can improve our overall health, reduce our risk of diseases, promote well-being and happiness, and also extend our life expectancy, which is quite amazing actually.
For Tom, it's been life-changing. He's back to performing, and he's working on publishing more of his poetry.
Every day, the most important thing was getting out and being outside.
Karen Lieberman, Global News.
What a powerful example of the healing power of nature. That is Global National for this Friday night. I'm Neetu Garcha. Tonight's Your Canada is the Fairmont Le Chateau Frontenac in Quebec City. We love to see your Canada. Please email it to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks so much for watching and hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Have a great night.